Okay, well, we're right at 7. I haven't seen Irv's video yet, but Irv, do you want to do a video mic check before we get going? Maybe not. Well, there he is.
Hi, Irv.
Perfect. Okay. Well, we are at 7, so I think we ought to get started. We have a busy agenda. So let's call the meeting to order. And Debbie, if you would note current attendance.
Noted.
Okay. Let's begin with our flag salute. Debbie, I think you're going to pop that up here in a sec. All right. Well, we'll do the virtual flag salute here. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
and justice.
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, first up on our agenda is our agenda review. At this point, we will take a moment, look over the agenda, make sure that there's nothing missing, and I'll accept a motion to approve it as published or to consider modifications if necessary.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I move we approve we approve the agenda for the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Moved and seconded. Debbie, would you call the vote, please?
Jonathan,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes,
Tom,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Irv. Thumbs up.
We didn't hear you, Irv. There we
Thank
go.
you, Irv. All in favor.
Thank you. All right. Well, the first item on the rest of the agenda is the consent agenda, where we have approval of minutes and approval of employment for the district.
so I just have one,
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry. I just
Go
had
ahead.
one small correction that I noticed in one of the minutes. For August 10th, item 7, and I can email this to you, Debbie, if you need me to. It indicates an interim superintendent at Robert Frost and Silvercrest, and that obviously should say interim principal.
Oh, thank you.
Tiny mistake.
Okay. Noted.
Thank you. Any other discussion? I would accept a motion to approve the consent agenda with modifications per Janet's noticing that issue.
I move to approve the consent agenda with the modifications Director Alanek suggested.
Second.
And second. Okay, Debbie, would you call the vote, please?
Jonathan,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes,
Tom,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Irv.
Yes.
Thank you. All in favor.
All right. So next up, we're going to come to our public comment period, our first one. And as a quick reminder, if you would like to speak, to please email Debbie. The email address is in the board book agenda for those who are able to see that. That's how you're going to signal to us that you're interested in speaking. So while people are queuing up, I'm going to go ahead and read our statement regarding public comment. We are glad you are here and welcome you to address the board at this time with your ideas, opinions, questions, concerns, or compliments. Please be certain to sign in. Of course, you're going to do that no matter what, before you present. Remember that we all model the way for our students, and we ask that you share your thoughts in a respectful way. The board's role during public comment is to listen. Rarely will you get an immediate response to information or for information. If there is follow-up necessary, we will direct our superintendent to do that. In order to ensure equity among speakers, the board will limit remarks to 3 minutes per individual. If a group of 3 or more wishes to appoint a representative to speak on its behalf, the board will extend the time for remarks to 5 minutes. A second public comment will occur later in the agenda specific to discussion and action items of this meeting. Thank you.
We do have 2 folks that would like to speak. I've emailed both names over to Maddie, so she'll be promoting them.
All right, first up is Krista Gray. Krista, you have permission to speak.
Okay, thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes,
I
thank you,
can.
Chris.
Okay,
Krista, before you start, I just wanted to let you know that I'm the timekeeper. And so at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I'll hold up this sign that says 30 seconds. And then at 3 minutes, I'll show you that time is up.
okay, I cannot see you, so I'm not sure where to.
Maybe I'll just verbally, then I'll just say 30 or something, or time's up. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you, Krista. You may begin. Thanks, Jennifer.
Okay. My name is Krista Gray. I am a mother of 6 here in our Silver Falls community, as well as a registered nurse and foster parent for Marion County. Thank you all for allowing me to speak tonight to advocate for my children who do not have voices in their daily challenges that they are experiencing now due to the online education. I have already written Superintendent Drew my concerns, but now feel it is needed to speak to the board directly. I realize that most of you probably are aware of the tax that this online education has placed on families, but I truly wonder how much you realize. I'm currently trying to spread my time between 6 children, 2 of them in kinder and 1 in 3rd and the others in junior high. I've seen my children go through emotions of frustration, anger, and disappointment. I question what it is doing to them mentally. It is heartbreaking to me as a mother to not feel adequate to teach my children what they need in order to be successful in this online schooling system. Many people have offered advice for me to hire a tutor to help me divide my time between all my children. And this is a great option for those that can afford it, but for those that can't, it just doesn't work. I am now forced to place our foster baby in daycare because the sitter tutor cannot help my kids and watch him at the same time. So unfortunately, my daycare bill just doubled. Another option would be for me to quit my job that I worked extremely hard for. But did you see the news stats today that regarding women leaving their jobs? A staggering 865,000 women have left due to this COVID virus. And it's just not okay. We as citizens here in this town pay a pretty high penny in taxes, which we expect to be used partially for schooling our children. So now I have paid my taxes, but also have to pay double in daycare just so my children can get the help they need. This is not a sustainable system. Our low-income families will be left behind. We're supposed to be coming together during this time, but in reality, this is dividing us further. In a recent town hall meeting with Representative Courtney Neron, Director of ODE Colt Gill, and Director of OHE Patrick Allen, it was discussed that there is a possibility of opening buildings exclusively for 1 grade in each building. I'm wondering if this is a possibility for our soon future. Have there been discussions regarding this? Our children in grades K through 3 need to be in school, as well as our other children, but if we could at least start with the little ones. I think it would be beneficial for us as parents and also our children. We know that these early years are critical for them and setting the path for them for their many years to come in school. We are depriving our children of the education they deserve. So I'm asking you tonight, who is advocating for our children? Who is meeting with Colt Gill and discussing what is working and what isn't? Have the teachers been given a confidential survey regarding what they want to have happen? We need changes sooner than later to save our children. And lastly, I want to thank all of the amazing teachers that have done an amazing job at helping children with the tools that they've been provided. As parents, we see you and we all see the work you're doing, and we want to thank you, but we need help. Thank you.
Thank you, Krista. We really appreciate you coming on and sharing your thoughts with us. Maddie,
All
are
right,
you?
next is Lainey Piper.
Lainey, are you able? You're muted currently, it appears.
She's got her hand raised.
Okay, is that better?
Hi, Lainey.
Can you hear me? Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear
Yes.
you. Hey, Lainey,
Yay! Okay.
are you able to see me if I put a 30-second timer warning up? Or would you prefer me to use a verbal cue?
I see you, Jennifer.
Okay, I will just hold the signs up then.
Perfect. Thank you. My name is Lainey Piper, and we have 5 children. One already graduated from the amazing Silver Falls School District. We love our district. We're so proud of our teachers and so deeply grateful for everything that they are doing to help our children learn. Just a few concerns, big concerns. I know now that 43 states in the entire US are open. 2 states in the US are in full closure, and the other 4 states are in partial closure. Oregon is one of those 4. We are definitely in the minority. Most states have no order are allowing in each individual school district to decide. I think that is brilliant. Why shouldn't we get to look at our local numbers and make that choice based on our unique districts and what is best for them? I know Governor Brown wouldn't want President Trump to come in and order us to open or close our schools. So I believe that our state government should not get the power to close districts at a state level. I'm willing to take a risk. My husband is a dentist in town. And I know that if something happened to one of us in our family, he would be forced to close and quarantine for 2 weeks. That would be very difficult for our family. Just today, my son, I tried so hard to convince him that he needed to practice his clarinet. My children are very much struggling. They need more than what is being offered, although I'm grateful for what our teachers are doing. But because he hasn't been in band for over 6 months, he has no desire to play. It's not fun. He doesn't want to practice his instrument. This is detrimental to our music program. And you know by now that I am a huge music supporter. However, my concern goes way beyond me and my family. One New York Times article states that child abuse cases have dropped by 51%. That might sound good, but not so. Reports of child abuse in New York City have dropped sharply since the corona crisis began, and that is worrying the authorities. The steep decline could be a sign that an unseen epidemic of abuse is spreading behind locked doors. Prosecutors and child protection officials and police report. As the virus has shuttered the city, the fragile system of safeguards designed to protect children has fallen apart. Teachers are normally the leading reporters of suspected abuse, calling for help when they notice bruises or signs of hunger or mistreatment at home. Now teachers get a glimpse of their students only in a virtual classroom if they see them at all. And while much of the city has been staying indoors and staying safe, for many children from troubled homes, the coronavirus pandemic has confined them to the most dangerous place they can be. The tensions resulting from stay-at-home orders and social distancing, isolation, unemployment, and even alcohol abuse can easily erupt into violence, child welfare experts say. We know that USA Today reports from Pennsylvania that hospitals are treating more children with severe child abuse injuries, indicating the state's most vulnerable kids are not safe at home during this outbreak. Oregon is not immune. The OPP reports that child abuse has dropped 70% just in 1 month, leaving Oregon officials concerned. We know that most cases are reported by mandatory reporters such as teachers. Please make a voice for our children. We love them. We want them safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Lainey. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your thoughts with us tonight. I know there's a real challenge, and you know, people speaking up is very helpful to us. We appreciate it.
All right, next is Eliza Torlin. Eliza, you have permissions.
Hello. Thank you. Hello, my name is Eliza Torlin, and I am a parent of a 3rd grader and a 9th grader here in Silver Falls School District. And I wanted to just take a moment to say I also carry the concerns of our community about worries for families that are in abusive situations, and also for families that have more on their plate than they can manage. But I also wanted to say thank you to our district tech department, who has hosted all these meetings and for publishing them pretty quickly. I know that you guys have jumped in to the center of all of this, and I feel that you've dealt with it in a really positive, manageable experience for myself as somebody who likes to attend these meetings and also likes to stay informed in what's going on in our district. The work that you've done for my family's distance learning needs has worked pretty well. I just want to say that we have not had too many big pauses. I live semi-rural, and I feel really grateful that my kids are able to log in. And while we do have to sometimes log in multiple times, we're able to attend our meetings. Thank you to our teachers and staff for giving us your all during strenuous times. I mean, you all are meeting these struggles with such grace, and I can't even believe the amount of sympathy that you carry for us as families. We are trying our best to. Please resist the temptation as a community and as a board of consternation and division. Embrace your power of connection and information. Always keep the well-being of our children first. This board has a golden blend of our district's perspectives. If you take time to hear each other, you will excel. And I appreciate all of the energy that each of you put toward this effort. Thank you.
Thanks, Eliza. Appreciate it.
All right, up next is Aaron Cook.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight as a parent of 3 kids who are products of the Silver Falls School District. 1 graduated and 2 is still in the district. On behalf of, I think I can take the liberty to thank you on behalf of all the parents here in the district. A huge thank you to our teachers, to our administrators, and to each of you on the board. We appreciate during these trying times the leadership you provided. And this is an unprecedented situation. And I appreciate your leadership, and I know all the others, parents in the districts do as well. Now, with that being said, I want to know that you to know that I understand that we are in a different situation than we've ever been before. This is unique. We've been dealt many blows with coronavirus, with fires, with you name it here in 2020. I do also understand that our district is unfortunately behest to regulations that the state has set forth in terms of opening schools. So I understand that you as administration, as a board, as teachers are only doing what the state has mandated and asked you to do. However, my concern, like some of the other parents, is for our kids. Our kids are not learning to the most optimum level, and that's a fact. I have a huge concern, especially for our most vulnerable students, those with learning disabilities, those with social and emotional challenges. I'm concerned that they're not getting the interaction and the education that they need and they deserve in this distance learning model. Now, again, like I said, I understand that you were given a model that the state has mandated that you execute on. So I'm in no way blaming the Silver Falls School District for this. But here's what my call to action for each of you is tonight. As a board, I'm asking you to petition the ODE. to petition our lawmakers, to petition our governor, to change this and to give options to opening our schools, yet also keeping the distance learning model in effect for those who wish to stay in the distance learning model. It's your job as board members. I believe it's also a job as administration to make our voices heard and to petition our lawmakers, to petition the governor and petition the ODE and their director to change our model and to at least come to some type of hybrid model where we can open the schools for those parents who want to send their kids, and to also have a distance learning model for those who want to stay in that. Thank you for the time tonight. And again, I appreciate all you do.
Thanks, Aaron. And you know, it's feedback like this that's going to help us to understand where the community's at. So we really appreciate it. Maddie, are there others that you're aware of, or Debbie?
I don't,
Nope, that's it.
I don't see
Okay.
any others coming through right now.
All right, well, thanks everybody. We really appreciate the feedback. It's been a really trying time for you know, and many of the board members have kids in the district, right? So we're feeling a lot of the same things that you're talking about. I've still got 2 in, 2 out, 6th grade and 11th grade, right? So, you know, I can really appreciate what some of you folks are sharing. Would, you know, I know it's not quite on script, but I'm going to ask, would any board members like to, I'll say briefly respond to any of the commentary? Anything anybody wants to add before we move on to the next item? Jennifer, yeah?
I had a hard day today. I'm teaching and I'm trying to help my kids learn at home. And so it was a hard day. I just want, you know, there was a Facebook post that somebody directed at the district and asked, do you know what it's like? And I want to say that I don't have 6 kids to manage, certainly, but I get a sense of what that must be like. And yeah, I wanted to put that out there that today was a hard day.
Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah,
Yeah,
Tom.
Jonathan? Yeah, I've got 2 kids in the district and my wife's a teacher. And we're hearing, and I'm hearing lots of people telling me about the struggles. And I know that every staff member is working their tail off. I see it in person. We had family dinner and there was 2 or 3 other teachers there also. This is, you know, everybody's working, but right now I'm glad to hear the information. You know, we need to focus on how this is affecting the kids and then put that in and then kick that information upstairs to the ODE so they can make their decisions. I know that's been, I know I kind of asked that question from Scott at the last work session and just trying to figure out how we are measuring the effect of the kids, the effect on the kids and how that affects, you know, their lives going forward. And I share the concerns. I think what I've been seeing, well over half of the effort of the energy in general of staff, parents, kids has been operating the technology and not learning the curriculum, you know. And I've definitely heard from some neighbors who are really have some kids that are really struggling. So anyway, thank you for the input.
Thank you, Tom.
I would like to say a few things. There's probably not enough words or that we can say to feel and to say, I understand. But I think what we have to realize is that this is a result of a pandemic. And it is going to be challenging on all levels. And education is certainly, it's different. It's not the same. And sometimes we want that normal back so we can feel confident and comforted again. And we are definitely navigating through this. And I believe that the teachers and our administrators are doing the best that they can in this very trying situation. And I believe that involves school districts. And my heart does go out to the students. Being a teacher myself at a little different level, I do feel for them, but we are in pandemic times. And again, there's not enough words, but I certainly understand the concerns.
Thanks, Lori. Yes, Jen.
I'll just be really brief. I do know that the governor and her staff have been working to rethink these metrics, understanding how challenging it will be and continue to be for counties to meet these goals in order to resume in-person instruction. I don't know what that will mean, but I really trust and hope that there will be some creative thinking around different ways. To Erin's point, are there any other models that we can look at? Are there any other ways we can carve up this particular problem and make it work better for kids? And so I think heads are working on that. I know that doesn't solve anyone's problem tomorrow, and we can do what we can to work with state agencies and advocates. But at the end of the day, we just are having to work together to figure out how to solve the puzzle. We've just never done it before. But I hear everybody. I have a student. I completely hear you, and we absolutely understand.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you for everyone that came to the board meeting tonight and spoke. And it's really frustrating when you hear some of these concerns that 43 states are open for brick and mortar, and we're one of 4 that are closed. I myself would love to see the kids back in school. I'm 100% behind that. To sending a message to ODE and to Governor Brown. I spoke with somebody today and I said, they're not messing with a retirement community. They're messing with our future, 50 to 80 years. They need to look at every avenue they can and not put the mandate on our school district as hard as they have. It's not fair to our administrators. It's not fair to our teachers. And it surely as heck ain't fair to our kids.
No.
So I just wanted you all to know where I stand.
Thanks, Irv. I really appreciate it. Scott, would you like to say a few words as well?
Well, I just would, first of all, like to thank those who had the courage to speak tonight. I could not agree more with every single one of you. Not only as your superintendent, but also as the father of 2 15-year-old boys who have been stuck at home since March in a small house with my wife. So I don't think there's anybody that wants schools to open more than I do. And we certainly have taken it upon our shoulders to advocate at the state level as well as among our superintendent colleagues. So I just want you to know to hang in there. We're doing everything we can and we'll be ready to go as soon as we're cleared to do so.
Thank you. And again, thanks to everybody who shared their thoughts. So, okay, with that, we're gonna move forward. We have SFEA next up on the agenda, and Michelle, you are up.
Hi guys. Thanks once again for this opportunity. Yeah, as I start with a big sigh, like that just kind of I don't know. We're in hard times right now. That's for sure. And it's hard for our teachers, it's hard for our kids, it's hard for everybody. And so we fully recognize that. So I typed up my thoughts for tonight because I wasn't quite sure how this would go if I didn't have them typed up. So I'm just going to read them from my other screen. So if I'm not looking at the camera, that's why, because I'm reading off of my my other computer. So we are now 2 weeks into distance learning, and we've heard feedback from teachers that covers all ends of the spectrum. There have been some major challenges and some wins, but the overwhelming message from all teachers that we've heard has been how seeing our kids and getting to interact with them has been the highlight of our experiences so far. Their faces and participation in live classes is what has been fueling our teachers through really tough circumstances. None of us signed up to teach this way. If we could all magically snap our fingers and eliminate COVID and get us back to being safely in front of our kids, we would in a heartbeat. Unfortunately, that's not the situation in which we are living. And though every teacher agrees on kids being the best part of our jobs, our concerns for the safety of our students, ourselves, and our families are still present. Please also remember that the district has to operate within the guidelines set by the state. All that said, and on the behalf of not only teachers, but all of our district staff, I would like to address the community specifically. We know we are all struggling to adapt to online learning, and your experiences have run the gamut as well. I was reading today a Facebook post from a couple days ago where people were expressing positive things about distance learning and also expressing really negative things about it. So I think the community is experiencing the same thing that all of our teachers are as well, because we definitely have teachers where things are going smoother and some who things are not going smooth at all. We recognize that this may not be what is best for your children, and we're advocating for modifications in curriculum to accommodate our students, and we're looking forward to the day when we can safely return to the classroom. However, we're not there yet. Our district is doing our best to support families and students. It's certainly not perfect, but everyone is trying hard to find the best solutions to challenges as they arise. So please have grace with us at all levels. These are all new platforms to us as well, and there will be growing pains as we adapt to a new form of teaching and interacting with students and families. Please remember that working on a screen all day is not comfortable for anyone. So if you see school staff taking a walk during their work hours or running an errand, please know that we are working on strengthening our own self-care skills and accommodating our own mental health. And just as we would advocate for your students stepping away from the screen for breaks, we're trying to practice some of that ourselves. But please don't think that we aren't putting in our hours. I've heard stories in the past week of people who have been up until 1 a.m. working on their lessons for the next day. While online teaching does open up some flexibility in our schedules, it has done nothing to make our jobs easier. It has been quite the opposite. Regardless of how any individual feels about the necessity of online learning, the truth of the matter is that right now, this is the most consistent way we have to continuously contact our students. Please bear with us, and please do whatever you can to help our community meet the metrics that will get us back with your kids in person. That is the only path forward. So that's kind of where we're at. That's what our executive board today discussed as far as what we really wanted to bring forth to the board, to the community. You know, 2 weeks in, for me, it feels a lot smoother and like we're starting to kind of get the hang of what we're doing. But 2 weeks in is not enough time to judge this system and this model as passing or failing. It takes time to get the hang of things. It's going to take that time for your kids. It's going to take that time for their teachers and everybody else. So please give us the grace and that we need in this time. We're not perfect. We're not going to do everything perfectly the first time. And just like we will be, you know, doing the best that we can to work with our student populations and our family populations. Yeah, these are trying times for everybody. So please be patient and give us the grace that we need to get through this together.
Thanks, Michelle. Any questions for
Thank
Michelle?
you, Michelle. I just want to say thank you, and I'm grateful that you're on the agenda and that we can hear from you and the people you represent. Thank you.
Thanks, Lori.
Okay. Well, next up, we have Michelle Livingston, who's representing OSEA, which is going to also be on standard on the agenda moving forward. Thank you, Michelle.
Mhm.
Okay. Hi, my name is Michelle Livingston. I want to introduce myself. I'm our local OSEA chapter secretary, and I want to thank you all for giving us the opportunity to come to these monthly meetings and keep our communications open and, you know, keep the board and public updated on what's going on. So we don't really have anything prepared for speaking on kind of the current school situation, but I do have a couple of old topics. So first of all, we want to thank the district and Dan Bush and like Janet Alanak for all of the hard work we did getting our contract finalized, completed, agreed upon. Everybody is super happy with it. We had unanimous yes votes on our side, on the district side. So it was definitely well worth all the hundreds of hours that we put in. We're proud of how cooperative the board side was, district, our side, you know, it all pretty much, there was good communication and it went just about as smoothly as it could. So thanks everyone. Also a shout out to the tech department for keeping us running a virtual bargaining session all summer. This was my first time bargaining, and I think I came in at just the right time. It showed me how well things can be handled between people. So that's that. And next, we have a huge thank you to Irv Stadley and Tom Buchholz for helping fight fires, joining our hometown effort to save the communities. I know we were all really on a scared couple days there, so thanks you guys. I know it was a great effort. We also want to thank the district for putting our staff, students, their families, everybody first, and reassuring we'd still get paid through this whole ordeal. And yeah, just thanks you guys. That was really great. That's just about all I have. So finally, we're looking forward to having our kids get back into school and getting things back to normal, or as normal as we can soon. So thanks you guys.
Thank you.
Fair enough. Anybody, any questions or comments?
Jonathan, I just would like to, there's, you know, we have at least 100 people participating tonight, and at your last work session, we did ratify the new collective bargaining agreement, but with so many people watching, I do want to thank Michelle and the team, the classified union leadership, for a real collaborative process. It was a lengthy process, but there was a lot to cover, but it was, you know, again, very collaborative. That last session was, while long, was a lot to celebrate there at the end. And so, you know, thank you, Michelle, and your team for everything, you guys, for all your hard work. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely big thanks to you guys. It was a lot of good effort and well-deserved finish to the end there.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Thanks, Dan. Okay. Well, thanks, Michelle. We appreciate it. All right. Next up, we are going to move into our discussion items. Our first up is a follow-on discussion to the last work session that we attended, where we were talking about the K-5 reconfiguration. The administration has recommended that we approve a motion to authorize Scott in particular to move forward with plans to reconfigure the school. So this is our chance to discuss any last minute thoughts, any further concerns before we might vote on it later tonight. Anybody have any questions or concerns or comments?
No. I guess, Jonathan, I have one comment. You know, I've been in favor of this since the idea came up because it's just what's best for kids. And I know it's not going to be easy to have boundary issues, but it's an opportunity for us as board members to, you know, I can't remember what it is in our working agreement, but something like, you know, celebrating the wins, but also standing fast for the hard times too. And so I guess I'm willing to do that for this, because I do believe that it is what is best for our students.
Thank you, Jennifer.
I absolutely believe it is the right decision. I fully support it, and it is best for our students.
Great. I'm in the same boat. I think it's a great idea. And, you know, I've participated on a boundary task force before within this district. And I think if we are really thoughtful in how we approach it, there's a lot of really good dialogue that can happen. And I think we just need to listen carefully to the concerns that are brought up. And, you know, ultimately, as Jennifer, I think, was alluding, you know, a decision will have to be made, and there will, I think, inevitably be cases where somebody isn't super thrilled with it, but I think it's the right thing to do. And I support Scott and our administration. I believe they'll do as good a job as is possible to do here.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Sounds like there's no further questions or comments. Okay, with that, we will move to 8B, parliamentarian discussion. And this was an item that we added to the agenda at a board member's request. And I think the idea here is just to have a conversation about what it might mean for our board meetings and how it might work. So Lori, if you want to maybe introduce your thoughts.
Sure. I think after the last meeting that we had, it was very clear to me, and I think to all of us, that we maybe sort of have an understanding kind of what parliamentarian or what the process looks like in the procedure. And I gave this a lot of thought. To have an actual board member act as a parliamentarian, to me, is what it does, it diffuses the position of the board member. Their focus should be, their thought process and energy should be in being a board member and listening and considering what is before them. The other thing is hiring somebody to come in and supervise us feels like we are wearing our training wheels on our bike. So I thought about it a great deal. And what I'd like to propose to the board is the following. Let's reach out. OSBA knows us very well, maybe too well. If we reached out to the Oregon Ethics Commission and said, come and train us, so that would fall under training. But before you come, would you please evaluate a work session and an actual school board meeting? Those are public, they are on Scan TV. What they can do is then look at that, make their evaluation or suggestions, and then when we invite them, they can make that a part of the training. And that would solve things in twofold. It would enlighten us. It would not take away from what we're doing currently. And then we could dovetail that or place it in the right spot, and that would be further training and enlightenment as a board. So I'd like the board to think about, what if we invite the Oregon Ethics Commission to come and train us, with the understanding that they evaluate past meetings, be in essence, what do you call it, the instant replay official of the game, and then train us on how we can be more efficient. That way, it will satisfy other facets without it feeling like we have a nanny. So I'd like to propose that, see what some of you think. But that has been my thoughts about the parliamentarian thought process and agenda item.
Okay.
Did that make sense? Did that make sense?
Well, I've got a clarifying question for you. At first,
Oh, sure.
you were talking about OSBA, and then you switched to talk about the Oregon Ethics Commission. So I'm not sure which you meant, or if you meant
My concern with the OSBA is that they know us too well, and I'd almost rather have a neutral party come in and just observe our meetings and make their evaluation and then come to us and say, this is our understanding on how you can move more efficiently through this meeting and with parliamentary procedure. That's my only thing. I mean, I'm more than happy, although Renee Sessler seems to be happily working her way to retirement. So I was just looking at that time frame caveat and just wanted to bring that into it. But whatever the board would like to discuss or consider.
No, that clarifies for me. Thanks.
Oh, okay, you bet.
Other board members, thoughts and comments? This is our discussion moment, so we can just kind of have a free conversation about this. Yes, Jennifer.
I think I generally support training and parliamentary procedure. I do want to put out the idea that we do have a resource within our district that's really knowledgeable, and that's our FFA program and the parliamentary procedure team. They probably could give us training, and that might be a really nice homegrown option to start with, because they do that. That's one of their competitions. They learn it in their ag classes. It's just a resource that we haven't tapped into that I would like to explore that idea and would support it.
Yeah, great idea. Thank you.
I also wanted to say that I think Debbie gave us another recommendation from the Jurassic Parliament. And so that would be something that we maybe want to consider as well.
Right. Sort of sitting on our radar. And then Renee, we were kind of trying to figure out scheduling for the follow-on to finish out the new superintendent training through OSBA as well. And the idea being to wrap that up before Renee leaves in particular. So, but she made some comments that she had some ideas based on some of the questions that she was asked last time that might be prudent to share in a follow-on training, which we're, I think, currently trying to schedule for the work session later this month. So, so that's something to keep in mind too. So there's kind of all these moving parts, but I like the idea in general of having more knowledge about parliamentary procedures. I think we are, Jennifer and I attended the one training talking about effective meetings, and some of it came out during that. But I agree in general that it's an area that, if understood fully, benefits the board as a whole. So. Any other comments or questions?
We were going to have the Ethics Commission come out anyway. Is that correct? To talk about, I think, primarily executive session?
Correct. And
Okay.
I'm not even aware, I mean, I'll plead ignorance here. I'm not aware that they give training on parliamentary procedure, but if they do, it's a possibility. But yes, they are coming out, or I should say we are talking with them about scheduling them to come out and to give us training on executive session. And that's been pushed out for a variety of reasons, primarily schedule conflicts, and the fact that we've moved kind of away from exec sessions in general has kind of, made it a little less urgent, I guess. So.
Mm-hmm. I'm definitely supportive of the concept. I guess oh, I'm sorry, Tom.
No, finish.
I guess the question is just how do we evaluate all of these sources and decide what's the best fit for what we need right now. Right. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah. So we've got to finish up with Renee on some more training, and we got some the Ethics Commission is going to come out and discuss some executive session training. So I think we have enough of it coming, and for parliamentary procedure is there to help you organize your meetings and keep them flowing properly. Last meeting, the work session, was definitely a struggle, but this one's going fine. And it took us a while to get to the questions that folks wanted answered at that last meeting, but I think we got there. And there was the question was mainly around the agenda review and how that appeared on the agenda now. And it took a while, but I think those questions were answered, and now we're seem to be having a very productive and fluid meeting. So I'm kind of, I'd like, I'd love to have FFA come in and just watch us and see if they notice anything, but I don't need, just kind of as a public service or help them with some training to see how it actually works. I was on the Parley Pro team when I was in high school. But they could actually, so instead of it being something you do as a contest, as a game, here it is in real life, that might help them, and maybe they could file us a report, offer us some pointers or something like that, just to help dial us in. But I don't know about making, maybe have them give us some input later, or an email or something. But we've got Renee coming out with some training and some ethics executive training, and I think we have enough training coming up for now. But and I think tonight's meeting's going great. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, Herb.
Yeah, I like the idea that Jennifer presented about the FFA and utilizing that part as well. And I agree with Tom that I'm not real crazy about a bunch of other training right now. So if we can postpone it and just see how it goes, but see if we can get the FFA involved somehow, I'm all for that.
Yeah, thank you. I think my own opinion is similar, probably. I mean, we do have at least 2 that we're trying to get scheduled through the end of this year already. So, well, 3 actually, if you count the group dynamics training with the administration. So that's 3 in the last, we're already pushing the middle of October here. So, Lori, would it be something that, in your mind could wait until the beginning of the year, or do you feel it's more urgent than that?
Well, I was just thinking some of the missteps that have happened in the past and how I'd like to see those worked out and avoided as much as possible. And that's where I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, we don't have this as an action item right now. It was primarily as a discussion item to kind of feel where we were at. And I think that short of a specific motion, what I'd like to do is kind of have us all mull this over a little bit and bring it back at a future meeting to see if we can, come to some kind of consensus on what we want to do. Does anybody feel differently about it tonight?
I think it's fine to wait and for a little bit and think it through. I agree with Lori, though. I wouldn't want to see it pushed off too far, and there might be a way to address some of these concerns within the meetings that are scheduled and just make sure that this is a topic. I think to Tom's point about this going smoothly, we have really good meetings and then we have really, really difficult ones. And so
yes,
I think part of the challenge is figuring out, was it the topic that was difficult? Was it a personality conflict? Was it, what was it that caused us to not feel like we had a really inclusive, productive, and collegial conversation, right? Because when we do that, it feels really good and it feels like we've done everything right, but that doesn't always happen. And so I think in terms of this just being an ongoing learning opportunity for all of us is to maybe when we have an opportunity with those folks who are coming anyway, is to say, hey, here are some of the situations that we struggle with. Rather than just train us on Robert's rules, here are some of the things that we found to be difficult to navigate. What would you suggest that how we navigate those situations?
And I think some ideas about that, by the way, that she was.
Well, oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I apologize. And I think that was some of the reason why I recommended that if we took sessions that were already complete and have someone evaluate them and then come train us, or just share the evaluation, just like an official does with a team. I think that would give us the context and help us to understand how it plays out in real time in that moment. So that's why I'm shared what I shared. So thank you for the opportunity, and thank you, Mr. Drew, for allowing that to be on the agenda. I appreciate it.
All right, well, thanks, everybody. Next up, we have our budget committee selection. So we did open the window, as you guys, I hope, are all aware, back in August, right before everything exploded again with a new crisis with the fires. So we had, I believe, one applicant that applied during that window. We needed at least 2 to fill the open slots. So at some point, we will need to reopen that window. And I think the conversation tonight is just to solicit thoughts and ideas around that and to have a conversation about it. The urgency isn't tremendous because we won't likely have our first budget committee meetings until spring. But having said that, I believe our policy, I should open it up and look at it. I believe our policy states something to the effect of trying to have it done much earlier in the year. Sorry, I'm opening it right now. I think it talks about, it says, after the first regular board meeting in August, the board will review the names of persons, and at the first regular meeting in September, they will appoint persons. And as you're well aware, things were not really lining up for that anyway. And then we had the fires and we missed a meeting anyway. So we're kind of going back now and we're revisiting it and we're saying, okay, so we're not there clearly. The urgency isn't huge. We need more applicants as it is. And so I'm just opening it up for conversations here. I think technically this isn't really board action necessary, but if we want to formalize it that way tonight, that would be fine with me as well. Thoughts? Yeah, Jen.
I would definitely like to open it up again. I guess the question is, do we open it up for 30 days so that we can wrap this up, review, have the applications due middle of November and wrap this up by December, and that way really put people in a good spot to get things going as early in the spring as they can? Or do we open it up for longer? I don't know that it necessarily, I don't think it's the length of the time that makes it effective. I think if we did 30 days, that would be plenty of time. But I think our communication around it needs to be a little bit better. And I don't know how we go about doing that, whether there are other places that we can post it. We have 94 participants tonight, so maybe that will help get the word out. But if there's anything we can do to just communicate that out better, I think 30 days is probably enough time.
Great
but I would
point.
like to open it up and have some more applicants, most definitely.
Yes, Jennifer.
My preference would be to do it now because the holidays are coming and people get wrapped up in that. And so the sooner we get it done, the better, or wait until after the holidays.
This was brought up about a month ago. I think one of our board members, I believe it was Miss Nealon, who wanted to extend it because we weren't having enough action with the applications. And I would like to see it wrapped up tonight, maybe have a motion out there and get this going, because we're now heading towards the holidays, as Jennifer mentioned, and I would like to see it extended and see if we can get a few more applicants. In fact, tonight is the first night that I realized we only had one application. I had asked if we had any. I was a little concerned, but. So the communication would be nice all the way around.
So, yeah, it sounds like Jennifer's interested in starting it up right away. Lori as well, maybe Janet as well. I don't know, Irv or Tom, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's fine. We could even give them a pay raise. That might help.
I'm going to double their salary, Irv.
Yeah. I'm for opening it up, and just I like Janet's point. Set a timeline so that it's wrapped up before the holiday break, before the Christmas break. I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah, sounds like it. Right. So, okay. Yes, Jennifer.
Oh, I was just gonna make a motion, but does that need to wait until the action items?
It doesn't have to. It's not listed as an action item, and we can take motions really at any point during a meeting. So.
Yeah, well, I think it's good that we have so many people here watching, and hopefully because it was on the agenda, and so hopefully everybody will spread the word. So I move to extend the budget committee deadline to November 15th.
Second.
And seconded. Any further conversation about it? Moved and seconded. Debbie, would you take the vote, please?
Jonathan?
I vote yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Tom?
Aye.
Lori?
Yeah, aye.
And Irv?
Yes.
Thank you. All in favor?
So I think, Debbie, we'll open it probably immediately. It sounds like we can repost that. And maybe we can work, Scott, with the our district-wide communication channels and see if we can get that word out using those tools as well.
We sure can. We can definitely help with that.
And I think that a lot of it is timing. Like I think July, wasn't that the application? That's people are not tuned into that kind of thing. So it may be that the same communication channels will work, but just because it's a different time. But I don't know. But if everybody that's on here can spread the word, I think that would be great.
Perfect. Okay, thanks everybody. Let's see here. All right, we are now up to administrator and staff reports, and that takes us to 9A, which was our financial update. Steve, I assume, is online here. There it is. Is somebody going to promote Steve to panelist, please?
Oh, I didn't know Steve needed to be in. No one told me. Promoting him right now.
Thank you.
What?
There he is.
Hello. Sorry for the delay. Good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? Thank you. Okay. So I have 4 tidbits of information to share tonight, 3 of which are good and 1 that's not good. So I'm going to start with the bad news first. The first bit of news is, since we're 2 weeks into the school year, this is not a surprise, but we didn't know exactly what the number would be, but our enrollment is down. As of right now, it's down 200 and put my notes here. Sorry, I covered it up. Okay, we're down 250 students from where we ended last school year, or about 6%, and we're down about 290 students from where we were last October 1st. Now, that's a big number, but we've talked about it. We saw, especially when we knew we couldn't go to the hybrid model, we started to see more transfer requests coming in terms of families that enrolled their students in virtual academies that already had an established way of teaching online curriculum. And also, you know, some parents have decided to wait to start their kids in kindergarten. So typically, the October board meeting, the superintendent does a full enrollment, beginning of the year enrollment report. But since we started the school year 3 weeks late, there's still kind of the shaking out period that we're going through right now in terms of The numbers I have were from late last week, for example. So we were just a week and a half in. So there's still some coming and going. There's still obviously this year we're having to, you know, when we have regular school going, they take the first 10 days and they drop students that don't show up after 10 days that were maybe there last year, but and then add the new students. But this year they're having to make sure, you know, they're having to verify attendance and enrollment based on whether did they log in, that type of thing. So there's still some still shaking out, you know, the situation for some students. If anything, the number will probably be a bit of a bigger loss. Probably, my guess would be 300 plus. I know one school reported they lost 3 more last week. So anyway, the plan is to give a school by school, grade by grade enrollment report like we usually do in early October at the October work session. So we have better numbers to look at, but it's still settling out at this point. So the reminder is that ODE pays based on the hire of the current year or the previous year. So obviously we are relying on our ADM, average daily membership, based on the 2019-20 school year, which most districts will probably be doing as well. And then after that, it just really, this could be an impact, obviously, on next year's budget. And a lot of this just depends on how the pandemic plays out and if and when we get back to any form of in-person instruction and maybe start to get some students back. So assuming our enrollment is greater than it is this year, we don't know, will it get back to where it was? It's hard to know. We would get the benefit of that bigger number next year and never have to rely on funding for where we're at right now, if that was to go up. So it's where we're at. It kind of mirrors the economic forecasts, and that we were at a certain number, we dropped way down, and now we're kind of coming back. I mean, you kind of look at enrollment the same way. Hopefully some of that will come back as time goes along and we're allowed to maybe at least do hybrid or whatever it is. But again, we just don't know what that looks like. So I wanted to get that out of the way. And we'll have more information in 2 weeks. All right, so the 3 pieces of good news really just it mirrors the summary email I sent to the board and then the budget committee on September 23rd. So you've seen this information. The first is the quarterly economic forecast that came out here around that time, so at the end of September. It was actually another improvement. So the 2 economic forecasts since the dismal forecast back in March when the pandemic hit, we had another improvement. And essentially what happened is our 2019-21 biennium, the revenue jumped up quite a bit more than they expected. So we're actually back where we started for 19-21, and that the revenue, the state revenues projected for the rest of this biennium for the last 9 months are back to where they projected that will actually fund the biennial budget for the state. That's great news because they won't have to tap into the reserves, the state reserves, the way they thought to be able to keep us whole, which then helps us for the next biennium because the future biennia still are lagging behind where they were pre-pandemic. I feel like there was one particular graphic, I believe it was page 21 of the Oregon Economic Analysis Office's report that I had included in your email that I believe was very helpful. In fact, I'll go ahead and share that on the screen here really quick, just as a reminder. Can everyone see that graphic, revenue bottom line? This just tells the story. So if you follow my cursor here, the March 2020 forecast is in red. So that's where we were kind of humming along with projected growth. from 21, 23 all the way through 27, 29 based on the current economic conditions. And then you could see what happened March 2020 forecast is in red. Yeah, so then the dotted line was June 2020. And then, so then the September forecast that just came out is this middle line here. So March is where we were before the pandemic hit. And then the June forecast is where we were kind of bottomed out, so to speak, at least at this point. And then the most recent forecast is kind of, it's back to where we were for this biennium. It's still down quite a bit for 21, 23, and it's still lagging quite a bit for future biennia. So we still have, good news for the rest of this biennium, more reserves available for 21, 23, but still not great for long term. I guess the positive is we have a lot of time to make that up, but it also gives more time for it to get worse. But I guess considering where we were at that first budget committee meeting we had back in March or April, May, when that June 20 forecast came out in May, here we are only 5 months later, and the trajectory has improved. So, it's anyone's guess as to what happens next, but a lot has happened in a short period of time. So that's all we can say. I'm not making a prediction one way or another, but that's kind of where we're at. Any questions on that before we move to the next topic?
Yes, I just wanted to ask a question, Steve. Could you clarify, did you say that between 250 and 290, we've lost that retention and that equates to 6%? Did I misunderstand you?
Oh, yes. So we're down about 250 students from where we ended the school year last year, last June. And yes, that is just slightly over 6% from where we were. And then we've dropped about 290. If you were to compare October 1st, 2020 versus October 1st, 2019,
right,
we're down a little over 7%.
Very good. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying. Thank you.
Sure. The next topic of good news is the biannual adoption of the employer PERS rates, which again was summarized in the email. That always happens towards the end of September, beginning of October in the even number years, and they're adopting the rates that begin July 1st of the odd number years. So these are rates that will go into effect July 1st, 2021 and last for 2 years. We knew through the summer that the rates would actually drop, but we did not know district by district what those rates would be. And we did find those out towards the end of September, and they adopted them at it was the first week of October that they had their board meeting. And so the rates as adopted will essentially save the school district $700,000 per year based on the same amount of payroll that we're at right now for the 21-23 biennium. So if we don't make it, if that line doesn't make it back up for 21-23 to where we were pre-pandemic, at least we'll have some expense relief on the PERS side, and the state has some more reserves that they could draw into that they had already planned to use this biennium that they're not going to use. So there's some positive things for 21-23. Again, long-term, not good. They still anticipate that for the next 2 or 3 biennia after that, at least, that the rates would go up. Now, the reason that the 21-23 rates went down was both the 2018 and 2019 calendar year investment performance, which really is the biggest driver of the rates, were both positive. In addition, there were some legislative reforms. So when you combine all of that, it provided a temporary reprieve on the increase in rates. So I have another graphic, and it was included in the email that I had sent you previously. I'll share the screen one more time here. So this is the sheet that has the page that has our district on it, and I should have highlighted it, but you can see down here, Silver Falls School District. The white columns are the rates that we're at right now. So for Tier 1 and Tier 2, we pay 21.21% of payroll and 15.76 for OPSERP. And then these are the rates for 21-23. You can see our rate goes from 21.21 to 16.66, and from 15.76 to 13.55 for the 21-23 biennium. As of right now, just some interesting stats. We have approximately, we're getting close to 55-56% of our employees are OPSERT members, and 40-45% are Tier 1, Tier 2, but it's closer to 50-50, or maybe slightly more than 50% of our payroll on Tier 1, Tier 2, just because they've been in PERS in their careers longer and are down further on the scale. So just kind of some interesting numbers, because the OPSERP rate is obviously less for all school districts. I also have always liked that our rates always on the same page as school districts. So any school district that has never bonded for PERS in the distant past, did a PERS bond to pay off the unfunded liability early, falls into the school district rate. So you could see that, for example, where we're paying 21.21%, school districts that never bonded pay 32% for Tier 1, Tier 2. We do charge our payroll 8% to help pay down our PERS bonded debt, but you could see even if you add the 8% to our rate, we're still less than the school district rate. So we're coming out ahead in that situation. You can see the school district rate here does come down, but we still maintain a good margin there of about close to 10 percentage points on the Tier 1, Tier 2 rate. 26.8, yeah, about 10% over 10 percentage points. So, like I said, that's going to help us for the 21-23 biennium. And, you know, like I said, we still need to plan for rate increases in the future. But again, that's good news for the immediate future. Any questions on PERS rates? Sorry, kind of a long presentation tonight. One more. The general obligation bond refinance, as you know, is a long process, and it had a couple of delays due to the market. But September 17th, we officially closed the bond refinance, and I'm happy to report that the effort is going to save taxpayers of the Silver Falls School District $1,158,000 over the final 7 years of the bonded debt. And that's really exciting. We were just holding our breath that our preliminary numbers would hold. Pretty much through August, we were looking at saving about $760,000. And then the week leading up to the pricing and in the bond sale, which was actually on September 3rd, the market got even better and the margins got even better. And all of a sudden, the day before the pricing, we had jumped up to a savings of over $1.1 million, which was over a 50% improvement over where we thought we would be. So that was really exciting. It really was. So it was just interesting that we got the sale done, fortunately, on 9/3, but then it takes 2 weeks to close the deal. And then the fire happened the night of 9/7. And as I and everyone else was trying to scramble around, we were trying to go through all these closing steps, and Piper Sandler and Hawkins and them, they were really flexible with me about knowing that, you know, it was kind of disjointed, but we got through the end of it, we got it closed, and we're really happy with the way that it turned out. Now, just as a reminder, that savings does not impact the general fund. It is a function of, you may recall in both the budget committee meeting and budget committee duties, when they approve our proposed budget as proposed or amended. They also help approve the levy amount that we do each year for that we have to get for to pay our bonded debt from the taxpayers, which is separate from the operating amount, the rate for our general fund. So that's a process that goes through the budget committee, and then of course through the board through budget adoption and levying the taxes. So basically what will happen is, starting with this next process, since we had already done the process for this year, it'll start next year and get basically people should see an impact on next year's tax statement. The amount will be less than what we would have needed to do had it not been for this effort, and spread its way out over those final 6 years essentially. And it's a savings directly to the taxpayers, and it goes through our debt service fund essentially, and is a direct savings to the taxpayer. And so yeah, so it's a really exciting deal. Again, it doesn't impact the general fund, but it's a direct savings to all the taxpayers of the district. So with that, that's all I had tonight. Sorry for the lengthy report, but I thought you wouldn't mind getting some further detail on those items.
Thank you, Steve. And I just want to thank you, personally for all the work you've done over the last month. I know, you mentioned you were having to, move around a little bit, and I'm aware of how much you had to do. And I just want to say thank you, because I know how much you still were holding down the fort for us, even in the middle of, multiple crises. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions for Steve? Okay. Well, with that, we are going to move next into our quarterly check-in for our superintendent evaluation. So this was something that we had lined up, I believe was supposed to even happen last month, but given the wildfires and our mixed up meeting schedules, we're going to do it now. And Jennifer is somebody who's kind of taken the lead on sort of helping us walk us through this new process. You have anything you want to, lead in with here today?
No, I didn't. The only thing that comes to mind is something that OSBA mentioned when they presented the process, and this is just an opportunity for us to calibrate and celebrate. And there was another C, I can't remember it at the moment, but this is just our opportunity to make sure that we're keeping our eye on superintendent evaluation and making sure that we're giving a lot of timely feedback so that it can be actionable. And I'm really excited that we have these scheduled multiple times per year and really formalized. And something that the public should know, I guess, is that oftentimes these are done in an executive session, but Scott has requested that they be in open session. So that's kind of a first since I've been on the board. So I'm excited to hear Scott's report about how the work he's doing relates to the standards that we chose to use for our evaluation instrument.
Thank you. Excellent summary. And Scott,
Thanks.
Lead in with your thoughts and go take it away.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thank you, Jennifer, for your remarks also. I think this process is new. I want to reiterate that, as long as I'm in Silver Falls, as long as everyone will have me here, I believe strongly that my evaluation be done in open session. And I'd like to kind of walk you through what I've come up with, because this is new for all of us and your feedback is welcome as well. I'm just going to share the screen right now and see if I can figure this out. And can you all see that? And I'm just going to go to presentation mode here. And so what I've done is I've taken the superintendent standards by OSBA and COSA and sort of divided those out. And then I'll kind of go over some of the things that we've been working on as a district, but I wanted to start, I'm going to switch out real quick just because I have just 1 second. There we go. Can you guys see that okay?
I still see you.
You still see me? How about now? No.
Still you.
Just one second. Now? We good?
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
And so first thing, I just wanted to start with some points to consider because we are in such unprecedented times. And before I start that, I just want to give every ounce of credit to the team I work with closely, Superintendent's Council, cabinet, starting with Dan Bush and Steve Nielsen and Leslie Roach and Dana Peterson. We have become fast friends over the past 3 months, and I look forward to a long working relationship with all of you. And I can't tell you how enjoyable you make coming to work every day. I hope you feel the same way. So one thing we know is that the global pandemic has forced everyone into new territory, and there's no playbook for this. No one in this country has previous experience with this. So the good news is it levels the playing field for all of us. So it really doesn't matter if you're new or not to the superintendency. All of this is new to everybody. So the other thing is that teachers are being asked to do the absolute impossible. I talked to a teacher last week that is in a different school district. I wanted that teacher to walk me through exactly what one of her days looks like. This was in a casual conversation. It's identical to what a teacher would experience here in Silver Falls, and it's mind-boggling. I would, of course, I would struggle trying to do what our teachers do right now. And I think that their acts are heroic. And so I want to make sure that they get all the credit in the world for their efforts. Because if it wasn't for our teachers, we wouldn't even have a place to come to work. And in my opinion, there's only 2 types of employees in any school district. There's those that directly teach kids, and then there's those who support those who directly teach kids. And so I just wanted to give a huge shout out to our teachers. Public school systems right now are dealing with multiple scenarios simultaneously. So we're trying to deal with comprehensive planning for remote learning. We are, I'm trying to, hang on one second. We are also planning for a hybrid model, and we're also planning for when COVID ends and we can come back in to school full time. Our work now, at least the work in the central office level, is 90% conducted virtually. And I know it's the same for our schools as well. And we work in an area where personal connections matter more than anything. And the wildfires, of course, have only added to the complexity, delaying school and layering hardships on our staff, students, and community. One of whom you just heard from, Steve Nielsen, who has been constantly moving around for the past month and still performing his job at a very high level. So for that, I thank you, Steve. I can only imagine what you and your family are going through. The first standards of visionary leadership, and I wanted to start out by talking about some of the adjustments we've made to leadership positions at each of the different levels in the district, starting with the superintendent's cabinet. And we have a new director of teaching and learning, Leslie Roach. Former director of teaching and learning has moved over to direct therapeutic services and what is now known as the Sequoia Academy to really zero in on that other 10% of kids who have not responded to traditional K-12 educational methods. We have also made some principal changes. We have a new interim principal at the high school, and we have a principal taking over the Robert Frost and Silvercrest jobs. And all in all, these moves were made to increase the collaboration between administrators and to better organize our school for when we come back after COVID. So there is a method to all of these changes, and it's all in seeing the bigger picture in things. We have a comprehensive distance learning model and a hybrid model format that we've been planning for that could last possibly a year. And so we haven't even begun to conceptualize what it's going to look like when we have 100% of kids back in the building. But this plan has been built starting day one on July 1st, even before that. And we've had to build this plan with a high degree of flexibility some of that flexibility was just exercised given the feedback that we've received from staff. And many of you know what those adjustments have been, because that's what we've been working on the past several days. And I think a key is knowing that once we overcome this crisis, that we have to have systems in place right now that protect the core values of Silver Falls School District, which is the safety, opportunity, equity, excellence, and life readiness. We need to make sure that we have a model that's protecting that, because we will get to better times eventually. And then, of course, taking every opportunity to ensure that our relationships with our community and our employee associations, as well as with all of us together, meaning you, the board, and me, the superintendent, that we come out of this with our relationships stronger than when we went in. And I know that all of you know that that's a huge part of my work, and a huge belief of mine is the relationship building. And I think our future looks really bright in that respect. And then moving into professional norming, which I like to call it, norms and expectations are really the framework by which we govern everything that we do in a school district. And so all of that starts at the top with myself and sharing the things that I expect from our administrators. And we have gone over that in depth. And one of the expectations I believe most strongly in is modeling the giving and receiving of feedback. And that includes me, number one. And over the past couple of days, I've experienced that professionally, and receiving feedback is the way we get better personally and professionally and as an organization. So we've also implemented norm-based time-tasked weekly administrator meetings. Normally administrator meetings, I think past practice was twice a month. We meet weekly, and that'll last for the duration of the crisis. I think it's critical, and that we keep our agendas to the minute and 100% academically focused, which keep it transparent, respectful of our fellow administrators' valuable time. We do meet in person. We meet at the Silverton High School Library on Wednesdays. And then we're in the process of redesigning a clear decision-making structure based on the input and feedback from our cabinet and extended cabinet that's made up of principal representatives. That system also going down to administrative teams and our employee associations, trying to keep everybody in the loop when we're trying to build consensus over broad systems level changes. And then one of the things that I look forward to the most, and this is in good times and in challenging times, that as long as I'm in Silver Falls, I will always have an open weekly communications meeting with employee associations and administrator groups, as well as our board chair and vice chair. And the most important one to me is the open listening session that I have once a week on Thursdays for all Silver Falls School District employees. And I had one of those meetings today as a follow-up to the meeting last Thursday, where we received some really critical feedback. And the meeting topped out at 100. So I bet if it was still keeping count, it probably would have been 175. It was a great meeting. It was a meeting to come back for me to respond to the feedback I received on Thursday. And I think the necessary changes were in order, and my hope is that it enables teachers to be more effective in serving our families. The inclusive, culturally responsive instructional leadership, this is a part that's near and dear to my heart. We began our work identifying a rather dramatic achievement gap between our students of color and their white peers. That began with the administrators and myself this summer at our admin retreat. That will continue with my work with you during a work session in the near future. I need for you to see the clear disparities in our state data between our students of color and our students of the white majority. I think it's very important that you understand where our work needs to be, that we're talking about 25% of the kids in Silver Falls. And as soon as we get through these crises, we will be we'll be taking a deep dive into this topic. We are starting the district's equity committee this month on October 20th. Jen Hannon and I are leading that work, co-facilitating that group. And at the first session, we will identify our focus for this year. I believe strongly that leaders are also readers, and we have two professional reading books that we've identified this year. And number one is Leading Change, a New York Times bestseller out of Harvard Business School. It's considered the gold standard on change leadership. And then accompanying text to go with that is White Fragility, and that is to try to understand the achievement gap between our students of color and our white students, why one group is performing at a much lower level than the other, just through the lens of those of us in the majority. And the majority of the Silver Falls School District staff and students are from the white majority. So it's a way for us to come together and think critically about our practice, think critically about how we're going to close the achievement gap. And it's all about our ongoing professional learning and challenging our thinking. And this is something that we're really excited about. Leslie and I will be starting the Silver Falls School District Teacher Leadership Academy. We'll be selecting the first cohort to begin sometime in January. And that seminar will be taught by Leslie and myself. And we are in the process of designing that. One of the things that I found in Silver Falls School District is that our teachers are an incredibly untapped resource in terms of teacher leadership. So we need to have mechanisms that are creating teacher leaders, that are mentoring teacher leaders, and that we are promoting teacher leaders from within into instructional leadership positions. And so that will be a first for Silver Falls, at least in what I've been finding out, and we're extremely excited to get this started. We need to start developing the talent that we have here. Community relations, we've been doing a lot of that the past 3 months. We've been, it all started with a comprehensive communications plan. I remember Dan Bush and Derek McElfresh and I sitting down a week before I started, and Derek sharing with us the 2 weeks he had put into developing a formal communications plan for the district. And we have stuck to that plan. We've worked that plan, and it has not been perfect, but it has served its purpose. I'm proud of Derek and his work on that. We meet once a week to talk about changes we can make and how do we communicate better with our community while not overloading them at the same time. We have reached out to every family in Silver Falls School District whose first language is not English to ascertain their needs and connectivity to make sure that they're taken care of by way of additional resources. We have an administrator assigned to the connectivity piece. James Rise is doing an amazing job. We started with 70 families without connectivity, and James quickly whittled that down to 30. And I haven't checked in with him to get the latest numbers, but we're whittling that number down to 0. That's our goal, obviously. And most of it has to do with hotspots. Some of it has to do with the fact that we have some of our families that live in areas where cell reception isn't even possible. So we've been working with community partners to open up off-site locations. And the reason why we're using off-site locations and not our own school buildings is because of the guidance from ODE says, make use of your community resources first. And so we're doing that. I think we have 4 or 5 locations right now that are ready to go. We have organized transportation. Those spaces have internet access and will be staffed with Silver Falls School District employees. And that'll be happening very soon. And we have just started with talking about the implementation of a superintendent's mental health task force. Jen Hannon is leading this work. She's a director of therapeutic services for our district. And that's consisting of all the mental health workers in Silver Falls School District, plus Legacy Health and from the WESD. And they're charged with 3 things. Number 1 is identifying our current number of students in need of social emotional services or some type of need there. And then the mapping of services that are already in place for those students and families. And what I'm really interested in knowing is what will the plan be once we come back to a hybrid model? So we need to start that planning now. I want to thank Tom Buchholz. Tom and I have been talking a lot lately. One of the things that I've appreciated most, Tom, is your pushing on my thinking, me coming back to you, getting pushed a little bit more, And Tom, I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversations, and especially the one we had in person on Friday. So thank you for that. And that's more to come. I will bring that report to the board in short order and report back to you on what our current status is and what our plan is going forward. I've been at the city council meetings to introduce myself. I am almost a Silverton Rotarian. It's just another way for me to stay in touch with the community, and I'm looking forward to that. I just can't wait until we're back to normal so I can really get out and do what I really want to do, and that is to get around people in person. So, and continuing to advocate with my colleagues of neighboring districts in our monthly meetings with ODE, to advocate for fair metrics and for clear expectations going forward as to when we can open, and trying to take advantage of every opportunity we have to advocate for our students. In terms of the, let's see, effective organizational management, a lot of this standard has to do with hiring and leadership development. Two of the things that I enjoy most about my work, and number one, I wanted to talk about what's coming, and that is the way we hire administrators in this district will be dramatically different than it has been in the past. And that will be with a process that we will design, which will be a multi-stage, multi-day, and multi-task hiring process. There's a lot of detail that goes into that. We will be rolling that out formally in the winter of 2021, and I will be getting started on that very shortly. I will be bringing a few of you on the board with me along the way. I've talked to those of you already, Janet and Jennifer, namely to help me as a sounding board as we design this process. It's something I have a lot of experience with, and I just want to reiterate that the number one job of any leader in any organization is making sure that there is a process by which you choose those who get the privilege to come into your organization. It's what matters most, and it's how transformational change happens. You can never miss on a hire, and we are going to stick to the hiring process, and we are not going to choose just the best person in the application pool, but the best person, period, based upon the character traits and professional traits that we identify beforehand. So more to come on that. And I suspect about 6 or 7 different independent stages for each one of the administrator positions. So it will take some time, and we will have large-scale public input on that as well. We will have a new process for mentoring our new administrators once we have them. We will have a way of onboarding them and hooking them up with a mentor. It's something that's critical, especially in the first year, whether they are new or experienced. Again, the Teacher Leadership Academy I've already spoken to. We will be starting our professional development as leaders, and you will be included in that, and it will start with group dynamics. Group dynamics training will be put on by Educational Excellence, and we will be meeting the 3rd week in October, I believe it's the 29th, to go through that training, and there will be follow-up after that. I'm just letting you know now as a board that that's what will be expected of our administrators, and I will expect that your participation in that as well. It's part of our agreement, and I will make it as painless as possible, I promise. But I think you'll actually enjoy it as well. And the development of a multi-day summer institute, Summer Leadership Institute, that I am taking the lead on. It will replace what has historically been known as the Admin Retreat. And this multi-day Summer Leadership Institute will be open to all Silver Falls administrators, including the board. And we will also be extending invites to our executive boards of OSEA and SFEA, as well as the district TOSAs within the first cohort of the Teacher Leader Academy. So it'll be 2 to 3 days. It'll be focused solely on leadership practice, because all of us in the district and leadership positions can benefit from it, not just administrators. I really believe strongly in that leaders need to be developed at all levels, and I'm super excited about that. And this is the meat of the work instructionally that I will just touch on tonight, but really it will come once we start to get back to normal, and that will be the work with teacher cohorts, with cohorts of teachers, to begin a multi-year plan to bring consistent, guaranteed and viable standards-based instruction to Silver Falls School District. And there's a lot that goes into that. We do have pockets of that going on right now. The beautiful thing about this work, and I've been a part of this work for the past 8 years, is that teachers have 100% control over it. And our role as administrators is just to create the environment, the collaborative environment for this to happen. So it's super exciting. It's super complicated work, and I'm not prepared to share more of that right now, especially since our teachers are working so hard and so much is being asked of them. This is something that will wait for the future. We'll get started in the planning stages this winter and spring. And then we'll be starting to include more and more of our teachers into that work in the following years to come. And the labor management meetings, I wanted to mention also in terms of organizational management, that name is completely prehistoric, and we have renamed it the SFEA, SFSD communications meetings, and there's a huge difference actually. Labor management just has a whole other connotation that to me, is sort of an old-fashioned way of looking at things. And I want to give a huge shout out to both associations, mainly the one we've been working most closely with just for over the past couple months, which is SFEA and their executive board. I've thoroughly enjoyed our meetings. I hope they can say the same thing. And I also wanted to give a shout out to Dan Bush, who did so much good work the year before this past year in building relationships with our employee associations, and the work, Dan, that you've and Janet have done with the contract with OSCA is just phenomenal too. And the financial management piece, I'm going to be totally transparent today, and I'm going to tell you what I went into Steve's office and said earlier this afternoon. That is, Steve, can you help me? Can we identify some things we're really proud about in terms of our financial management as a district? And so, number one, I want to go to the middle item, which is the finalization of the general obligation bond refinance, and that saved $1.16 million over the final 7 years. And also, I want to give a huge shout out to Steve for being so patient with me, bringing me along, feeding me information in small chunks to get me comfortable with the financial standing of the district. Steve, you're one heck of a professional and an even better teacher. And so I just want to make sure I give you my heartfelt thanks on that. And the prioritization of the SIA funding, which is $1 million to Silver Falls, it's a third, and reprioritizing that into the therapeutic center, which is now called Sequoia Academy, which is focused on our most vulnerable teenage population. It's really that 10% of kids that we want to make sure leave our school district ready to take on the world and who have choices available to them. And so I've never heard of work done like this. I want to give a shout out to Jen Hannon. This was originally her concept, and it's just such exciting, it's such a thrill to bring this to fruition. We have a location secured, and we'll be getting into that location in December. And there's a lot of reasons for that, why we have a location identified for that. And we will have on-site services for students and their families. It will also be where we will house what we're going to call our welcome center for our families who do not speak English as their first language, having a very welcoming place for them to come where they can feel comfortable and have their needs met as well. And the last one is the policy, governance, and advocacy. And, this one, I think, one of the main focus of this category is the relationship between the board and superintendent. I requested from Jonathan and Jennifer at the get-go of the global pandemic crisis that we meet twice a week. It's really important that I have twice weekly communication focused on the crisis with our chair and board chair. And I hope that that continues until this crisis is over. And when we get to better times, maybe we've taken what we've learned here and open up new channels of communication with the board as a whole. And then my goal, if I really try a weekly contact with each of you. And some weeks that works, and other weeks it's more like playing phone tag, but just know that that is my goal. That in addition to sending you updates every single week or as needed. And I hope you feel the same way. I hope you feel kept in the loop. I do also believe very strongly that our board have a general understanding of the nuts and bolts that go on within the district. It may not be board work, but it's incredibly important that you have an idea of how complicated our work is. Because at times I do ask for your advice, just by nature of your roles as professionals in other fields. And so it's also a way for us to show the good work of our district leaders as well. And I really enjoy bringing you all into that world by way of sharing agendas or summarizing meetings that we've had. It's very helpful. And then I hope that you feel the hashtag no surprises culture that we're trying to build here. And that is any conversations that need to be had, we make sure that we take care of those at the earliest possible time. And it has to do with our agreement, our working agreement as a board superintendent relationship. And it's felt really good to me so far. And I wanted to make sure I spent a couple minutes pointing out and acknowledging how important our assistant superintendent's role is to the relationship that I have with all of you, and that it's a major and critical factor in the success between the board and the office of the superintendent. That has not been a past practice in the Silver Falls School District. I think it's critical. Dan represents the office of the superintendent, and Dan has full freedom to contact board, to work with the board on the matters that he and I are working on. And Dan, I also just wanted to say thank you. You've become a very good friend to me as well, and I just thoroughly enjoy working with you. You just made us all better. And again, continuing to advocate at the ODE level and with our fellow administrators. And with having said that, thank you for allowing me to give you that update. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have after being on the job and serving you for 3 months and 2 weeks almost.
Well, thanks, Scott. Yeah, this is our opportunity to provide that feedback. Oftentimes, as Jennifer sort of stated at the get-go, this particular opportunity, this check-in, typically will occur in exec session. That's very common. We're not doing it there, but nonetheless, we still need to provide that feedback. This is that opportunity, and this will be a build-up towards the final annual written evaluation. Jennifer, any, I guess, add to that, please.
I remember the third C. It was that there were 3 C's that OSBA talked about for these sessions, and they were celebrate, calibrate, and course correct. And one of the things that I wanted to just mention is that strong teachers have an end in mind. They have a clear plan, but still they're constantly using feedback to determine next steps, whether that next step is in 2 seconds or if it's the next day. And strong teachers are reflective, and they pivot if necessary. And I think that we've seen that strong educational leadership from Scott. I think that this is our opportunity to just say that we appreciate that course correction. I'm not suggesting that course correction needs to happen. I'm celebrating it as a, I think that I see it happening, and I really appreciate it. And I love that Scott takes absolute responsibility for the entire district and keeps students at the center. I just wanted to add those 2 things.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Other feedback for Scott from the board? Questions?
Yeah, Jonathan.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, Scott, great report, great, check in.
I'm not hearing Tom. Is it just me or is it on Tom's end?
I kind of looked at the metrics and I was looking at them like, well, how do I score these? And I really couldn't. It's still too early for that. It's
Hey, Tom, we're having an awful time with your breaking up there. Sorry. That's the challenge that we're facing. And, sometimes that's the same challenge the kids are facing during the day. So it's good reminder for us right now.
See how it goes. Clearly, you've got things lined out, what you want to do, goals, and let's see how it goes. But it's probably mine. Can you hear me, Jonathan?
Now we can.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, actually now you're starting to come in a little clear again.
You can hear me now?
Yep.
Much better.
Oh, I haven't spoken for a minute, so it must have just been in delay.
Yeah, it was slowly streaming through.
Sorry, Tom.
Sure. Yeah, just good report, good check-in. It's kind of really early to give you actual metric or feedback on the goals and where you're at, but I like the report. I like the idea of the quarterly check-in. I kind of like, Jennifer Traeger's been talking about this type of an evaluation for years, and I'm sure it looks great. Thanks, Jennifer, for pushing that. Scott, obviously, you like it too. But in general, good job. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we hired you. And yeah, great job. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Well, I think, Tom, the most important part came at the last there from what I can hear. The rest sounded like you were under about 40 feet of water, gasping for air. Tom, you with us? I don't think he can hear us either. Anyway, Scott.
I can hear you just fine. Anyway.
Oh, okay. Scott, I think you had some tough shoes to fill. And I'm just saying, I'm thoroughly enjoy your leadership and how you're conducting yourself personally and professionally, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Irv. That means a lot.
Yeah, I wanted to say that I've had people stop me once again. I meet them everywhere in Silverton, and they really appreciate the level of communication you provide to the community, to the students, to everyone. And that is so refreshing. And it was so deeply needed. And I'm glad that you have done that. I've also have deeply appreciated your empathy in tough times, because it's just been an incredible testing time that we're all in. But you have been incredibly responsible and responsive, and I am grateful that we hired you. I really am. And this district is a better district because of it.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Scott, for that great slide presentation. It was really helpful, even though I don't know that it was necessary just for the quarterly, but for me, it was just really helpful to see how you are conceptualizing those different standards and how your work is guided by them. And I think it's, it's like having a really good strategic plan that you're just checking back against all the time. So I really appreciate the detail, and it's also just a great way to get, I think for people who are watching tonight, to get a really broad and wonderful sense for the work you're all doing. I'm just going to echo everyone's statements. I'm so glad you're here, and I really appreciate the integrity of your leadership. Character is everything. And I just appreciate that you are a calm and reflective leader, and very open to input, and a very open communicator. It makes me feel that I can come to you with concerns and know that those will be received professionally and graciously. So I really appreciate that. And I'm so excited that you're just pushing us all to be better, to be absolutely the best versions of ourselves, so that we can do the best for students, and putting students and teachers first. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Janet.
Yeah, thank you. I don't have a lot to add beyond what's been said. I think some of the things that resonate with me in particular are the very concrete ways in which it's obvious that you solicit and take in feedback, right? So, it's not like you've built this big wall up around yourself or anything. It's wide open. You really, really sincerely want to hear what people have to say, and then you really listen. And I think it seems obvious to me, and I hope everybody else is seeing it too, because, I see it every time we talk, and all the things that you do right now. So I want to say thanks. I'll echo what others have said. It's been wonderful working with you this year, and we're definitely in a good position because you're here. So thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate it. Thank you all.
Okay, any final thoughts on this check-in before we move on? Okay. We will move next to board reports. It's an opportunity for people to share, board members, I should say, to share board-related business that's they've been participated in since our last regular meeting. Anybody have anything you want to share?
Just one comment, nothing that I've participated in since our last meeting, but was really grateful that Dan has invited me to continue to be part of our, what I will now call communications meetings with our classified staff and OACA. And I know we're having our first meeting tomorrow, and I'll really look forward to being able to be part of that group again. So thank you, Dan and Scott, for allowing me that privilege. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would, I just want to say that as we are moving along as a board, and we are now 2 decades into the 21st century, and I think as a board that we need to be flexible and grow. And I was encouraged to see the statement about all students belong from the ODE. And I think our board needs to consider policies supporting our communities within our school district. And that does personally mean to me also our LGBTQ communities. And separate from that, looking at what anti-racism looks like. And I just want to say that. And I'm grateful that ODE provided that statement, because all students do belong, and they deserve that inclusion and equity and safety.
Okay, other board reports from anybody? Okay. We are now to our second public comment. Same as before, if you would email Debbie, hopefully you might have already done that. Debbie, was anybody lined up already?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, we'll give a minute or so in case somebody would like to. I'm not going to reread the statement that we read earlier, but remember, if you do wish to share, you'll get the 3 minutes. Jennifer will hold up the sign accordingly, and to model your words in a way that will help our students that might be watching to learn from us. Anybody wishes to speak? Maybe even just try, I don't know if they can raise their hand, just anything that might let us know.
I don't have anyone raising their hands.
Okay.
No emails yet.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We're gonna go ahead and move on. We have an action item tonight as it relates to the K-5 reconfiguration that we discussed earlier this evening. And again, I'll just sort of restate what I stated before, which is that given the importance of this, Scott has asked that we formally authorize through this action tonight his authority to begin the process of reconfiguration. So with that, I would accept a motion. We have a recommended motion on the agenda. If somebody.
I'll do it.
Sure.
I'm ready. Okay. I move that we give formal authorization to our superintendent, Scott Drew, to move forward on the reconfiguration of K-5. Did I get it all in there?
I think so. The recommended resolution, if you will, or authorization is on the action. It's very similar to what you said in any event.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? No. Okay. Well, Debbie, let's call off the vote.
Jonathan,
Yes. I vote yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Tom,
Aye.
Lori,
Yes.
and Irv.
Yes.
Thank you, all in favor.
Motion passes. Okay. Really, the only other item we have tonight is an item called other items. And the idea here is, if you've got something you want us to keep in mind for the next meeting, if you have agenda requests, perhaps, it's an opportunity to do that. So anybody have anything that you want to add? Yes, Jennifer.
I'll just say this, and I haven't spoken to you recently, Jonathan, about this, or Scott, but we just finished our first quarterly evaluation check-in. One of the things that I brought up in the past is this idea of, hiring a consultant to take our final evaluation and make it actionable for Scott to help us, summarize and really distill it. And that is something that I would still like for us to consider. And so I will ask that maybe be on the agenda in the future.
Thank you. Any other items from tonight? Okay. Well, without dissent, meeting is adjourned. Thanks, guys.
Thank you all.
You.